Gallen. Uh, our fearless leader is going to talk today about, we're on chapter 5 and 6, correct?
I hope so.
Yep. And I really enjoyed this weekend. I went back on 5 and 6 and listened online, and that was really good. I like to read a book, but then I really like to listen also. So I had put that on in my car, and it was really it was great. But my husband noticed that Mike Allen's name was across there, and he's like, "Mike's calling." I'm like, "No, that's the book. We're listening to the book."
That's funny.
So, anyways,
I like that story. Well, appreciate you rinsing and repeating on the book. I really feel that it's that kind of book to go back and reference things. It's not a long book in pages, but the depth of information is tremendous. And it's just we're constantly learning. I mean, I'm looking back on this stuff, and a lot of it I've lived and breathed it, but it's just a good reminder for just me and what I do every day, day in, day out, that these principles and abilities are really tantamount to my success, the company's success, and just success in life holistically in general. So I love hearing those stories where people go back. I know at least one of you, I don't know if you're on here today, has I think read it 3 times already, so I appreciate that. I don't get paid anymore when you read it again, unfortunately. It's but yeah, they don't pay you when people read. They only pay when they buy. But appreciate that. Yeah, we're talking about chapter 5 and 6 today, and I think the timing's really good. Everything that's going on, market's picking up. We're in a really great position to finish out the year strong. I think my prediction, my bold prediction, albeit I have to revise it from my original prediction earlier this year, is that we will end up having over the next several months that feel more like maybe spring or even summer. Right now, the month of September feels like a summer month. I mean, just based on the unit volume we're seeing across the board in all of our offices, we're having our best month of the year, and that's incredible, guys. So
yay.
that's a positive sign that when we're having our best month in a September, which I've never seen in my almost 20 years of being in this business and running brokerages, I've never seen September being the busiest month, but we'll take it and hopefully we're as busy going into November and December. And it's just really delayed demand. We knew the demand was there. It was on the fence. We keep hearing the term on the fence, but that's a great analogy. People were just not getting off the fence, guys. And now that rates are getting down to lower levels and the market sentiment and the economic sentiment, consumer confidence is up. Feds are cooperating finally. And I think we'll continue to see a robust climate out there. But only a few guys, number one, prepare meticulously, which is the topic of chapter 5 today. And this one is one of my 4 pillars of success. And some of you have heard me reference my 4 pillars of success in my career and life, and I'll go over them. Number one, it's just a relentless, work ethic, and I just don't stop. I just work until I get the job done, and I go above and beyond always. And the others, I organize or master my time and consistency and really follow the quantum time management and those principles we talked about last week. And number 3 is what we're talking about today is meticulous preparedness. And that's I'm just always prepared meticulously, and I'll go in detail over that. And number 4 is just leads into the next chapter we're going to discuss. I've just had this mental toughness and focus, and just been very risk tolerant, calculated risk tolerant. But and we're going to talk about developing a quantum mindset and focus today. So, the quote from the beginning of chapter 5 is awesome. Kind of reminds me of the movie Wall Street, Michael Douglas, how he quoted Sun Tzu, The Art of War. So Sun Tzu says, victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. So think about that. You're you're in a war, you're in a battle. It's a battle out there, right? We've got a tough market climate, albeit improving, but we have a lot of competition. So it's like you're out at war each day. And the good news is this: most of your colleagues out there are basically just going out to war first and really hoping that they're going to win. So they're very ill prepared. And most of you that know me know that I prepare for everything. If I'm doing a 15, 20-minute segment in a sales meeting, I will spend no less than 30 to 45 minutes preparing. So I spend more time preparing for a presentation than I do actually presenting. And that almost seems counterintuitive. But really, why is it a surprise? How many days a week does a professional football team practice before they play the game on, Sunday, which is much shorter in comparison, right? It's basically, um, you know, 2 hours, right? That they're playing actually on the field. Actually, it's an hour total. It's right, 15-minute quarters. So let me get my math right. So think about that. But they practice all week, right? And really, preparation is what gives us a competitive advantage. And the agents that are out there planning their day and planning what they're going to do, preparing and being ready to go into a listing appointment or a buyer consultation, or whatever they're doing, they're going to win first. They're going to win first. And so I guess, how many of you on the meeting today feel that you're a great preparer? I mean, you can either raise your virtual hand or raise your actual hand. Okay, some of you I'm seeing there. Okay.
Good, not great. I need to
Good,
become
okay.
great.
Well, we can always get better, right? And that's where I think the meticulously comes in. And I like the book because, how we put the title is because we put hyphens in between each letter of the word meticulously. And it's kind of cool. That's how prepared you should be and meticulous about it in detail. But yeah, I mean, I see so many people winging, and it used to drive me nuts, in my previous job, and it does this job as well, this career. When I've go into like a client meeting, I used to go in with some of my sales people into meetings, and some of these people were big clients like Walmart, Blockbuster back in the day. We called on them, Lowe's Home Improvement, and we'd go into these meetings, and it's like these guys didn't even prepare. They didn't know the products we were talking about. They didn't understand what the strategy was. They felt, well, I'm just, such a likable person. I'm going to go in and just kind of schmooze them and make them feel good. And we're sitting in front of people that are a part of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. That's not how you prepare. But it doesn't matter whether you're going into a multi-billion-dollar corporation for a sales meeting or you're going into a listing appointment for a $400,000 listing. To me, it's the same level of preparedness, and that's what's going to win. And just part of being prepared in this business is just knowing a lot about your business. Do you really know your numbers? Do you really, look at how you're indexing against the plan you set at the beginning of the year? Do you understand the local market trends? What's going on in your area, the area you practice in? Could you tell the client or a prospect when they ask you, well, how many homes are listed in Visalia, Fresno, Bakersfield right now? Could you answer that question? And could you drill down to even more hyper local questions about what's trending in neighborhoods, areas? In Visalia, where's the next Lowe's going in, or the next, the big one, of course, is Costco, right? Where's the next Costco going in, and what's going to be near it? Are there neighborhoods near it? What's the gentrification trends in an area? And really understanding these, enables you to answer questions when they do come. How many of you rehearse your listing and buyer presentations before you go in, and really rehearse at the level that it's just like second nature to you? Anybody out there want to talk about how they prepare for listing appointments?
I know Irma does. I see her.
We know Irma does because her numbers reflect it, right?
Oh.
Oh, you're muted, Irma. You're still muted.
Okay,
There you
I
go.
got it.
You got it.
I love MoxiWorks. It's amazing because you can add or take away depending on what client you're meeting with. I actually use the Spanish version quite a bit, and the Spanish speaking people really appreciate the fact that we're, including them in something very important. I will run my comps a whole week before, and then the morning of, I run them again and I study them so in depth. It's kind of almost nutty, but I know my numbers before I get there, and I don't have to sit there and show them because I can talk about it. And then I pull out the comps, and then I'm able to show them exactly what homes I used as the best comparables for the home. And I drive the neighborhood before I go to their home. So I can tell them these are the houses that I actually came to visit before I came here. And they feel that you're very competent at that point because you've gone the extra mile to check your comparables.
Yeah, that's good, Ermin. And what would you say your hit rate is, your level of success on listing appointments? So out of 10 listing appointments, how many do you end up getting the listing agreement on?
Probably 8.
There you go. I would have said 80, at least 80%. So
Yeah.
that's an amazing number. And that doesn't come from just being a great person, right? It comes from being prepared and knowing what to say and how to answer the questions. And that's the other thing that, any meeting we go into of any kind, particularly a listing presentation or a first time buyer consultation, we need to anticipate what the clear objections are, and what they're going to bring up. Those that have sent out maybe pre-listing packages, things like that, may already have some of those objections, presented to you, so you already know what to anticipate, because you're going to call and ask them, or do you have any questions before I come out? And maybe they bring up the commission or the list price. Those are the top 2 most common things they're going to bring up, and now you know what you're going to be talking about. And you're not going to do it on the phone. You're going to say, okay, great, we'll focus on those things, or maybe cover those 2 topics first when I get to your home, tomorrow at 5:00 p.m. So just I like going in with as much information in any business or competitive situation as possible. I like to have the upper hand and the edge, and to be able to almost, and it sounds kind of like, maybe bad, but I don't mean it in a bad way. I almost like to find the hack of how to get whatever I'm after in a good way. I mean, I'm not going to cheat at something, of course, but if I can get the insider, or really get to, like, let's say, a seller's true hot buttons, what they're really looking to do ahead of time, and be ready for that's awesome. And yeah, you're going to go in and you're going to get 8, 9 out of 10 listings every time when you're at that level of preparedness. And really, it's about treating each appointment, this, in spite of the list price, like it's the biggest listing of your life that you're ever going to get. I call it like treating it like the championship game. And you're just going to scout, you're going to strategize, you're going to look at all contingencies, and really make sure that you're going in with your best effort. And you go in with the level of information. And I love, Irma, you talked about Moxie, and we'll send you a Starbucks gift card later for that. But we keep pushing Moxie for a reason, guys, because look, if you go in with a Moxie listing presentation, all that data organized in that fashion, you're not going to lose. I don't know how anybody else can beat you out there unless they're going in with a Moxie listing presentation. Even if they're using great programs like Toolkit CMA, which I used to use back in the day, Moxie just really is no comparison to Toolkit. It's so much better and in-depth and robust and visual. When you go in with tools like that, you don't have to prepare as much. I mean, it's doing the job for you, which is pretty awesome. Let me kind of flip the context of being prepared in the discussion and talk about systems and checklists that you guys may have, whatever form that takes. And I know, some of you are still taking, writing handwritten notes. My famous thing for many, many years, until I got this paper, electronic paper tablet, which is called the Remarkable 2. I have no ownership in this company, but I think I've helped them sell at least 30 of these things already, maybe more, because I've had this for 5 years and people ask me all the time, where did you get that? How does it work? But I used to have these yellow legal pads, and I got that from my dad. My dad always had yellow legal pads, and he would write out his whole day, what he was looking to accomplish. Just wrote it out line item by line item, and maybe starred the more important things. And then as he completed them, he would just cross them off. And my dad was one of the most efficient people that I ever met, when it came to just the level of volume that he had. And a lot of you know, particularly if you read the book, my dad was a very successful real estate broker in Porterville, maybe the most successful of all time. He was doing at his peak over 100 sides or transactions a year with just one assistant. That's it. And it's funny, this day and age, you got people doing 20 deals a year, and then they feel they have to have a team around to support the 20 deals. And I'm just like, no, let's get that number up. But at the end of the day, that came through the level of efficiency. So how many of you have systems of some sort that you follow to really have an efficient day? And can somebody tell me what that system is? Lena.
Hello. So, as with anybody, it is very hard to stick to a system, even if you have a system. And I'm very system oriented, but I also have ADD. But I do have handwritten and that I duplicate. I know there's probably a better way to do it, but if it's not on a daily checklist, I'm a checklist person. So, and then at the end of the day, if I haven't checked something off, I get very agitated, and then I start again the next morning, right? When I wake up at 5 o'clock and I do my workout and I do my prayers and I do my gratitudes and all the 5 things that I do to even start my day, so that when I do come to the office, I've been a cheerleader for myself to stay to task. I think you talked about this last time. I put a in a meeting sign in the door so that I don't feel bad, right? Making eye contact. I have this big glass in front of me here. It's very, I get sidetracked a little bit, but I stay down and I time block. The most important, for me, the most important part of the day is the morning up until noon, lunchtime, and everything is time blocked. And that it includes I have things that I do daily, I have things that I do weekly, right, and then monthly. So then those things are fed in there. Sundays I go over my whole week and my little sheets, and I fit everything in there. And unless something tragic or something happens, then I stay to that time block.
Good. Yeah, and I truly see that. I mean, you are one of the most efficient people I've worked with, trying to run your own real estate practice, and then, being the director of Fine Homes and Estates for the entire company and helping us develop that division. And, having, been very involved in your staging company at the same time. I mean, it's a juggling act, right? And people that aren't highly efficient would drop all those balls immediately. I mean, there would be no success in any area if you're not preparing and being organized. And really, it's the weekly planning process, which we did talk a lot about last week in the context of quantum time management. It really prevents the firefighting and reactiveness to things, right? Where we're constantly on our heels and playing defense because we're blindsided and we don't control our day, and we haven't planned things out, and we don't know how the week looks. We just show up on Monday morning and then pray that everything goes our direction, rather than stepping into Monday morning knowing exactly what you're going to do that day and what are the 2 or 3 quantum, priorities that we have that we need to knock out that again will move our business forward in a significant way. That's preparedness, because I want to go into the day or the week with a game plan that's mine, that it's designed for me to win. It's designed for me to score and win, rather than just simply react to all the external, gotta minutes and requests and things that other people need to help them win. I'm prioritizing me first, because when I prioritize me and what I'm trying to accomplish, at the end of the day, that helps me achieve more. But also, I'm prioritizing my family and the people that depend on me as well, because they deserve the best me when I go out to battle or go into the game. They deserve the best me, and that's what preparing is all about. Because again, people can't beat people that are more prepared. I mean, if they do, it's a fluke most of the time. And it's preparation also, it builds confidence, which translates into more client trust. So when the clients see you walk into a listing appointment with, a process, and it's smooth, it's fluid, and then you're presenting data that looks like it's taking you 3 hours to prepare, which in reality, Moxie helped you prepare it in 10 minutes, which is pretty cool. But literally, it looked like you spent 2-3 hours on the presentation preparing. That instills a huge level of trust right out of the gate before you even have to say a whole lot. But again, it makes you feel good and confident about the conversation going in. You're prepared for objections. You're ready to talk about what's gone on in their neighborhood, what's listed, pended, sold recently in their neighborhood. Be prepared for the "my house is better" syndrome when the neighbor's house down the road sold for 50,000 less than they want. How are you going to handle that objection? What are you going to say when they say, "Well, my house is better because I've got the outdoor kitchen, or I've got better granite or tile or paint," or whatever they feel that their house, because most people always feel their house is better than the neighbors, right? So how are you going to be prepared to handle that discussion when you go in? And it's just about being, anticipating and really having those objection handlers ready, and really just being a local market guru as well. Just know what's happening in their neighborhood, that side of town, that town in general, and be able to answer what the trends are and explain, why it's important to list and sell now at a, the appropriate price, because, waiting could damage you. Waiting could mean more competitions, more listings coming on, etc. So it's just important. And of course, the adage is practice makes perfect, right? Just rehearsing things is the highest level of preparation when you're going to be on stage in any capacity. Just rehearsing what you're going to say, going through it in your head. Look, going to a listing appointment early is one of the best things you can do, because you show up 15 minutes early. It doesn't mean you go knock on the door 15 minutes early, but maybe you show up 15 minutes early. You can sit there, wait in your car, but then you're going through the presentation in your mind. You're visualizing how it's going to go and what's going to happen. And then you're visualizing that positive result, which is getting them to sign the listing agreement, right? And that's important. But going back to just planning your week, it's just also, just use another sports analogy, it's managing the clock well. It's really managing the clock well, and finding a way to basically optimize your time within the constraints there of the clock. So you have so much time in a day to get something done, and everybody has the same 8 hours, right, in a day. But I guarantee you there's people even on this meeting that get more done in that 8 hours, probably 2 to 3 to 4 times more done in those 8 hours than others. And it goes back to just being prepared, and what Lena said, just blocking your time out and making sure when you're working on those quantum priorities, that you're really focused on those with no interruptions, whether it's a sign on the door or you're doing it somewhere private where people can't get to. But that also goes for just general preparedness. When we're preparing, are we being distracted while we're preparing, or are we being able to prepare with 100% focus on that? It's, you know, that's important, because it's hard to prepare when you're getting interrupted every 2 minutes. So I guess talk about, I'd like to hear from somebody about how they prepare in general for going into a listing appointment.
I'll share something, Mike.
Mhm.
And this is back to Moxie again. I hate to talk about myself when I get to a listing presentation. I don't like to give numbers or really focus on me at all. And I think one of the great things about Moxie is you can send over a presentation just with your numbers, just a little bit about you, and you can get that off the table when you go to your listing appointment. So you can send that ahead. I always send
Right.
that ahead and say, I'm going to get this over with, and then we can concentrate on you and your house when I get there on Friday. And I love that. So I always prepared 2 presentations. One, just a little bit about me and the company, Century 21. And then when I get there, I'm really prepared to talk just about them. And that's what they really want to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's amazing. You know, we spend a lot of time preparing for the listing appointment or anything we're doing, but buyer consultation, and depending on the client, some of them want to hear all those details. Those are our hyper analyticals, and others are just knowing you have the data is good enough, and they don't really need to go over everything, because at the end of the day, you've already instilled that trust, and they know that they can always go look at something if they have questions. But really, then it just gets to the bottom line. So it kind of accelerates the meeting in a lot of cases. And we've heard of the 5-minute listing appointment, right? Where we've sent them the pre-listing package, they've had all the data, and the idea is to go into the appointment and just not have to talk a lot. Just walk around, look at the house, get back to the kitchen table, and any questions? No. Here, ready to sign? Yes. And really, we don't even at that point have to go through the whole thing. So basically, we prepared so meticulously, we end up not having to go through a full presentation at that point. And again, that's the power of the tools and resources we have as a company to be able to go in with that level of presentation and collateral marketing material, and just the faith, of course, and trust of Century 21 in general, which is, again, the most trusted and recognized brand name in the country. You already have a leg up on the presentation. I mean, when you're going to be, before you even walk in through the door, and it's yours to win or lose. So I love that. Anybody else have any comments on how they prepare for their day, their week, the year? Of course, we'll be preparing for our years next year, coming up pretty quick with business planning. I do want us to get a jump on it earlier in the 4th quarter. We won't wait till December 23rd to get these things done. We want you guys having a solid business plan, well before the end of the year, because there are things that we should be preparing for during the 4th quarter, meaning September or October, November, December, to start the year strong on January 2nd. And so we'll be working with you guys on helping you prepare your business plans, get them detailed out, fine-tune, and really create those quantum priorities you guys will have for 2026. So our level of commitment to help you guys prepare is there if you guys are prepared to prepare early. And you can quote me on that, by the way. Well, it sounded like Dr. Seuss a little bit there. All right, so let's move on to Quantum Ability 6, or Chapter 6. And this is about developing a quantum mindset and focus. And the opening quote to that book is, success in life comes when you simply refuse to give up, with goals so strong that obstacles, failure, and loss only act as motivation. And that's unknown. There was no author to that quote when I found it. So think about that. Number one, we're relentless. We refuse to give up. But we know that really our goals are what we covered early on in chapter 1, our big why. Our big why is that compelling that we will not let any obstacles, failures, and loss stop us, but only act as motivation, and we'll use that to build on, right? And that's powerful, and that's the essence of having a strong quantum mindset and focus. And really, our mindset shapes the outcomes of our day, of our week, of our month, of our year. Our mindset shifts or shapes the outcome of everything that we do, and really, it often trumps talent. If you just have talent alone, and I've known some very talented people. I've had friends that were super talented at things, and they just didn't have a strong mindset, and they weren't as successful as they could have been, because they just ended up maybe starting out strong, and then they ended up crumbling after a while. And really, we're going to have these swings in mindset all the time. I mean, everybody's human, and it's just about resilience and bouncing back and quickly recovering from those failures and those rejections. And I think, particularly newer agents getting into this profession will maybe start out running and have some early on success, but then they run into their first failures. So maybe they don't get the listing, or they have an escrow fallout, and maybe they have more than one, maybe more than one at one time, and all of a sudden they're thinking, oh, maybe this business isn't for me. I knew it. It's just, this was a fluke. I'm not going to make it. Maybe I need to go back and do what I was doing before, or go find another job. And that's where we start getting the mindset polluted. And so we have to find ways about getting it reset. And I think one of the first and easiest ways to do a quick, reboot of our negative mindset is to, number one, shift from thinking about negative things and thinking about failures or potential failures, and change them to positive things. Go back and think about some successes you had recently or before, but also go back to thinking about your big why as well. Well, why am I doing this to begin with? Why did I take this risk to get into this business and start my own business, and take the test, pass, pay all the member dues, licensing fees, MLS, so I have an investment, both time commitment and monetary. But why did I do this to begin with? And let's not forget about that. And at the end of the day, know that big why is so important. It's going to keep driving us through failures and low points. The other thing that I've talked about that I've done is when I'm getting down on my mindset and beating myself up and feeling like, the world's against me, and, oh my gosh, here we go again with another headache problem, is just, find something that inspires me. And going to events like the upcoming Tony Robbins event next month is powerful. It's a powerful, again, reboot of your mindset, and getting around people that are like-minded, that want to improve. And really, by the time you come out of something like that, I think you're recharged for the rest of the year or beyond. It's just an amazing experience, and it doesn't have to be Tony Robbins. It could be something else. It could be a Mike Ferry event. I know that many of our agents that go to the Superstar Retreat come out of that inspired and just really strong, and they end up finishing their years really strong. It's amazing just how those types of resets work. So throw the question out there: how many of you or who out there has a consistent method of resetting their mindset when it starts going south? And if you could share what you do to reset it.
Sure, Mike, I'll go on that one. I have a couple of different things. It just depends on whether it's mostly business, personal, or work. And work is a combination for me. If my home life isn't where it needs to be, it affects my work. And so one of the things that really does it well for me is to kind of write a couple of things in my priority list. I write it down, and sometimes I even put it on my phone. And then I take a day or a few hours in a day to really go through it, reset my priorities, and really get what I need to done and the importance of it done, because life can get in the way, the noise of life can get in the way. And so resetting priorities for me has always been really important. And I have to have a good work-life balance. I can be a workaholic. And so I enjoy work so much that if I don't have that balance and if I don't take time to really half a day, just a day to myself to really plan those things out, I can see it. I can see it kind of build up over months. And so I do that about twice a year right now. It's all it takes for me. Some people need it weekly, some people need it monthly. For me, I can focus well doing that twice a year, just resetting my priorities to seeing through what's important to me to kind of drown out the noise and reset, if you will.
Yeah, that's an important thing is, with our minds when we're kind of again in the game or the battle, so to speak. Oftentimes we're residing in this fight mode, and a lot of you have heard the fight or flight instinct or mode, which is part of the sympathetic nervous system. This goes back to prehistoric times early on, when we were just living more out in the wild and didn't have the luxuries and the protection of four walls and and traveling in cars and things like that today. But we get into this fight mode, and you're constantly at a high level of adrenaline and cortisol being released. And if we don't come off that and take time to rest our minds and to focus more on family and things that are important to us outside of just work and being in the game, you're going to crash and burn real quick. So there is, I hesitate, and I even mentioned in the book about really using the term balance. There, I will tell you, there's never a perfect equilibrium between work and home life, for example. It's just always going to be lopsided one way or the other, depending on what's going on at the time. But I will say it's about, again, prioritization. And if we don't prioritize downtime and time with our families and time to really get out of that fight mode and recharge our brain, you're just gonna burn out. That's where you get that infamous burnout mode. And so that's really important. And so going from just mindset in general and resilience and recovery, there's another thing that I talk about in the chapter, which I think it might be the first chapter I introduce it, which is the term EQ, or emotional intelligence. And this is really an important one in the context of real estate, because we're dealing with people and people's emotions. Most transactions and how our clients react to them, you think would all be about the numbers. What's the list price? What am I going to net? And what's the monetary element of all this? And yeah, I mean, that's important to people, but it's also a very emotional experience for them when they go to buy or sell a house, particularly if they're, let's say, selling a house that they raised their family in and they had been in maybe 10, 20, 30 years. And we have to understand that EQ is tantamount to everything we do, including our own mindset. And really, when we're truly exhibiting EQ and listening to people and caring about what their goals are and what their concerns are, that's building lasting trust and client loyalty. But sometimes we recognize that we need to really bolster our EQ. We're just not at a high enough level, whether it's from a professional standpoint or a personal standpoint. And I'm one that's battled with EQ at times, because sometimes I get in such this business mode that I don't think about the emotional aspect of things and how I'm interacting with people when it comes to that. Because again, I may be looking at something strictly from a logical business perspective, and they may be analyzing it and coming from the context of a completely emotional decision or decision making. And we have to recognize when that's happening, and it's like, pump the brakes a little bit, slow down, go, okay, no, I get how you feel. I understand this is a big decision and that it's hard, and I'm here to help guide you through this. And really, it's just about listening at that point as well, and not just spouting out what and people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? We've heard that, and they want to know that you care. And, so we have to make sure our minds and set is one of empathy, and one where we're showing that, not just thinking it, but showing or demonstrating that emotional intelligence. And some of you on this Zoom today, I know, are very good at that, on helping clients, go through their trials and tribulations, and what might be a really hard sell, because it's a house that means a lot to them, or maybe somebody passed and it's a trust or estate sale, and you're dealing with trustees and you've got to really have that patience when dealing with it, because they're already emotional to begin with from that standpoint. Does anybody here consider themselves really to have a high EQ level, and explain a little bit about that and how you interact with your clients?
I'll jump in on that one. I've felt personally that's been my strength for many years, and part of it has to just do with my background. It's been in client services, customer relations. This is the thing, this is a very, very customer relation industry that we're in. And if we are not very aware of that, I mean, part of the EQ is you need to be aware. You've got to be cognizant of that person that you're talking to, because like you said, Mike, it's a very emotional thing. You don't know what's going on. And if you're going in there kind of oblivious to it, guess what? That person, they may not choose you. And even if they do, it may not be a lasting relationship, versus the ones that you can actually form a bond with, form a relationship with. Then all of a sudden, that's not going to be somebody you're working with just once. That's going to be somebody that they're going to tell their friends about, their family members about. That's how that sphere grows, because of that relationship that you're getting from that individual, by showing that you care, by being very aware of everything that's going on. You have to be conscious of that. And it's something that, I pass on to the agents here at my office, and I'll say that to everybody that I, work with, and that if you are not aware of who you're talking to, and understand that you may need to audible how this conversation's going, you're not going to win. You won't be successful in that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. And yeah, it's super important. At the end of the day, we are in one of the few professions that A, we're licensed, but B, we have to exhibit and show this thing called fiduciary duty, which is acting in the best interest of the client, as long as it's legal and ethical. But we really have to do what's best for them. And, we've really transitioned over the last decade in particular, unfortunately, into a culture of hyper business growth, and really what I call chasing commissions. We're just there to get a transaction done. So we're going to put the contract into escrow, and we're going to turn over the deal to our transaction coordinator, and then we're going to disappear until escrow calls and tells us the commission check's ready, right? And that's zero EQ. You're just there to be a transactional person, and you're there to just get paid. And if you don't show any EQ in what we do, you may get the deal done and you're probably going to get paid, but guess what? You're one and done. There's just no repeat business, right? And so we really have to shift our mindset to one of service. And we're really serving our clients to the highest level, and we're really servant leaders. All of you guys are servant leaders, and you're like, well, I'm not a manager or a broker. Why would I be a leader? Well, because you lead all things real estate in your center or sphere of influence. So you're the person, or should be the person, the people around you, your family, your friends, their friends, and everybody you come into contact with on a regular basis. You're that person. You're serving, and a great leader does show a tremendous amount of EQ, because again, it builds lasting trust with those people and loyalty. And when people have more trust and loyalty, they're also more forgiving when you make mistakes, when you drop balls, and when things don't go quite as well, particularly when it's not your fault, which that happens all the time, but they're going to have a lot more grace for you when you're exhibiting that. So just going about this in that mindset and knowing that, look, if I do this really well, if I really care about people and I really help them succeed in all things real estate, I'm going to get paid at a high level, man. I'm going to make a lot of money doing it. And I'm not going to worry about chasing the individual commissions. All I'm going to worry about is caring and helping my client succeed. So that's important, guys. And that's how you're going to last in this business. That's how you're going to last long-term and be successful long-term in real estate. So let me shift gears a little bit and go to that thing called focus. And focus is hard. I mean, we've talked about, having issues, we talk about the term ADD or ADHD, and I feel I haven't been diagnosed, but I feel that I've battled this my whole life, particularly when I was younger, because I had an untrained mind that wanted to wander all over the place. I couldn't focus on anything. It was like I was like a squirrel, I was looking at the shiny things and chasing the nuts falling off the trees, whatever. But the reality is focus is something that we have to constantly be practicing and honing in on and just becoming better at. It's really a lifelong thing that we have to intentionally do with purpose. And so it's really, I think focus starts with the discipline of saying no to distractions and yes to your own priorities. So I'll say that again. Focus is the discipline of saying no to distractions and yes to your own priorities. And we talked about saying no, I think last week when protecting our schedules. But if you don't say no, you have no ability or time to focus, right? You're just so distracted. How can you focus on anything? You're just in constant fight and reactive mode. And so we have to find times that we create, not others allow us to create or allow us to do, but find times where we can create to focus more. And just, once we're focused, we get a lot more done. And Tony Robbins says, where focus goes, energy flows. Where focus goes, energy flows. And that couldn't be truer. I mean, whenever you have focused on something with such deliberate intention, with all other things blocked out, generally you've had an amazing result, right? I mean, I always feel that I have when I've been able to focus at that level. And really when I'm focusing on a quantum priority up here, or a big, hairy, audacious goal, tremendous things end up happening. And I've seen it. It's almost like, magic, right? It's that magic pill we talked about last week. Just great things happen, and they start happening really at I think an exponential level as you're able to increase your focus and focus on bigger things. So what are some things you guys do out there to focus, and how do you do it? I think you're all focusing right now too much.
Yeah, they're all focusing on what you're saying. I think it also depends on whether you have ADHD or not. So in order for me to focus, I typically have some background music playing that does not have any lyrics, just sound. And then when I really need to focus, I'll close my door so I have less interruptions. But for me, it's putting my mindset to something. I need to get this done by this time, and that seems to do the trick for me. But for me, it's eliminating distractions, number one.
Carmen, how do you focus? Because you get a lot done.
Yeah, actually, you saw me driving this morning because Jason threw a curveball at me. I was supposed to be on TV next Monday, but his eye is wide shut, so I'm going to trade him for today. And so I had to select wardrobe and things like that to prepare for this afternoon. But how I focus is just eliminating noise and preparing. Sometimes what I will do, and Mike, you were right, during the presidential year, it's so difficult because there's so much on the schedule. And for interviews and things like that, sometimes I have to record myself. And I think that works because then I can listen when I'm driving or doing other things to prepare. Like today, I have to practice a couple of times because I didn't have time to prepare. I thought I was going to be in next week, but just shutting out the noise and focusing on things. I don't like music. My husband and people I know do focus on things by listening to TV or music. I don't know how they do that. I cannot. It has to be silence.
That's good. I love that.
And you're going to be on TV today.
Yes,
Yay. What channel?
I think 30 Mondays.
It's cool. So for those of you on the call that haven't met Carmen, she's the president of the Fresno Association of Realtors, which is the largest association in our region of the state that we're a part of, which goes from Fresno to Bakersfield up to Tehachapi and up to Yosemite Gateway area and all the way up to Madera. So that's how many members right now, Carmen?
We're at about 4,300, and of those, maybe 3,400 are MLS only.
Yeah, gotcha. So that's a big association for our area and even for California. So congrats for doing that and doing everything else you do. And I've been president of an association, 2 different associations, 3 times. And 2 out of the 3 times I was president, I had my biggest sales years during that time period. So I was selling a ton of real estate and trying to run an association and traveling 4 weeks out of the year, juggling all that, working between breaks and evenings. And it takes a lot of determination and resilience, of course, to get through that and not just crack or crumble or let your mind just go south. And I think just that term determination is really, it's about just keeping that momentum alive when challenges come your way constantly and not getting derailed. And you will get derailed, you will get knocked down, but how quickly are you going to get back up and keep going? And you just have to know that you have to keep moving forward no matter what, even though you feel overwhelmed at times. I'm sure Carmen's been feeling very overwhelmed this year during given weeks, but she's kept going and she's kept positive, and you wouldn't see it just by watching her. And that's the other thing with our mindset. Are we wearing what we're thinking on our sleeve, and are people seeing it all over our faces? Some of you and other people out there have the worst poker face I've ever seen. I can tell you exactly what you're thinking. So we need to practice, making sure when our mindset's not quite up to par, that people aren't seeing it around us, because we want to be the leading example of somebody that's positive and resilient and is going to keep moving forward and worthy of following, right, for that matter. The other thing I want to shift gears, and we're getting close to winding down here, it's 9:56 looks like, is just a part of the mindset, as well as just having the adaptability when things change, and being able to mentally shift those gears, particularly through a shifting market, which we've dealt with over the last couple of years, and being able to mentally process the fact that we can't keep doing things the same way, and I'm willing to adjust and shift, and willing to adjust my predispositions, the things that I'm thinking that should be the norm, and challenge those, right? Rather than look for confirmation bias out there of why I'm still right, why the business, things should still work this way, why I should still keep doing the things that I've always done because they worked before. And those of you that are having good years, and I'm not saying, very many people are having the best year, although some people are having the best year of their real estate careers, but those of you that are having good years, have obviously been very adaptable in changing the way you do business, because the way you did business just simply 3 years ago is not the way we have to do it today to stay ahead, right? We have to constantly be reinventing, things that we're doing and stopping things that aren't working and being coachable. And that's adaptability, I think, really is synonymous in a lot of ways with coachability. Are we coachable? Is our mind open to learning new things and having people help us and show us how to make those changes and how to do things better, and having that humility, which I'll talk about later in one of the later chapters. It's a big part of a later chapter, but having that humility to say, hey, I don't have all the answers. I'm going to seek out somebody that has more answers or has gotten through those challenges that I'm seeking to get through. And is there a person like that that helps you out there? I know that Michael and I and the managers, that's one of our main jobs is to help you with all of that, to help you stay relevant, to help you, keep a positive mindset and to stay focused and to be adaptable, and really giving you the ammunition and support to succeed in all those areas. And just being, by virtue of you guys being on this Zoom today, you're showing all those things, because there's, majority of the company's not on today yet. I think a lot of people could use, these conversations and see what their colleagues are doing. So I'm going to throw out one more question, and anybody wants to pick up the ball and run with it. How have you had to be adaptable, and what kind of changes have you made in your business over the past year to continue to succeed?
Man, I think Vincent's been quiet on this one, but I've seen Vincent do a whole bunch of stuff. Vincent, take this one on, man.
Oh, Peter, you know what? When it comes to adaptability, it really is just looking at what's around us and checking to see it and making that move to make sure our goals align with what we're doing. I've had different scenarios, different situations. Some clients who, they want to sell their home because they have a need versus a desire, or a really, really simple scenario. A seller I have right now to sell his home is going to pay $30,000 to sell his home. That hurts anybody who's in real estate in our business if we care. And we have to, and for me, it's more of a pain because I do not want to have him sell his home. He's losing $30,000 to sell. His goal, on the other hand, he is at an age where he is comfortable to retire early. He wants to travel the world. His children have left the home. So we go and find the easiest way to make the transition for him and adapt what our beliefs are to get his goal, which is to be really without a home physical location. So if he wants to decide tomorrow to go to a different state and be there for a month because it looks good, he can. So for me, that was my adaptability. I want to make sure our clients are friends, really. They're not clients anymore, they're friends. I want to make sure that when we adapt to them, their needs, their wants, their desires, that we're helping them get to their goal. For me, it was an adapting shift change of mindset. His goal, yes, I'll lose money, Vincent, but it's okay. And it wasn't a, hey, Vince, give me a discount. Vince, charge me your fees. Do what you got to do. And that's where I had to adapt in that situation. Now, as far as other adapting goes, just look around you. If your business isn't doing what you want it to do, find out what you're doing incorrectly, or learn from others around you and do what they're doing and do it better. One reason I like this company is I can look around at these meetings, have 5 different offices, main offices, have a lot of different individuals, take a little bit from here and there, and I adapt my ways to increase my business, my coaching programs, everything else, my team, to make sure they all can succeed more. That's really my goal.
That's awesome. Well, again, you're a perfect example or epitome of servant leader, which a servant leader is always going to be adaptable and figure out ways to help the people that follow them win, right, and succeed. And that's the mindset that just it can't be beat, right? Going out with that mindset. Again, I'm here to help all the stakeholders around me, the people that depend on me, succeed. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to make that happen, which means I sometimes have to work out of the box and think, creatively, and really seek out innovative and new ways to do things, and really get out of that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality. Because I think that's such a dangerous mentality, because generally with people that stick with that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, it's very broken and you just don't realize it yet, right? You just don't realize it. And then it's too late by the time you do, because your business is down 50% and your clients aren't referring people to you, and you're wondering what happened. Well, you didn't adapt, you didn't change, you didn't have the right mindset. You had a fixed mindset rather than a growth mindset. And that's really tantamount to succeeding, is really trying to maintain yourself in that growth oriented mindset as much as you can. And when you do that, you're going to continue to grow personally, and you're going to help those around you grow and succeed. All right, well, we're at 10:02. Do we have any other closing comments, questions? I'll open it up to questions. It's amazing how quickly time flies, right? When
you're having fun though, Mike.
we're good. Everybody's
good.
ready to start their week. Well, hopefully you were prepared to start your week and you already know what's going to happen and what you're going to be working on here today and the rest of the week. All right, guys. Well, again, the market's doing really well. If you're not feeling it, get in that mindset where you're, hey, I'm open and ready to participate and get on that wagon and go, because we're putting up a lot of deals, guys. Putting up a lot of deals, and not just in one or two offices. It's every office right now. So that's encouraging. I think we're going to close out the month strong on pendings, and let's keep moving forward and have a stronger rest of the year.
Thank you, Mike and Michael,
Excited.
very much.
Hey, Mike, real quick. You guys own some commercial properties too, right? I mean,
Yes.
besides your building.
Yes.
I think Laura Diaz had mentioned that she listens to classical music to concentrate.
Mhm.
This is a real weird fact, but it is a fact. One of my friends owns a lot of commercial property in LA, and they have a lot of homeless problems down there. They blare classic music into the yards of those places, and the homeless people all left for some reason. I just thought that was really strange, but he owns several hundred properties and they do that at each location. So just thought I'd share that with you guys. I thought that was interesting.
I've heard of that and seen people do it. Obviously, there's noise ordinances in cities that you got to be careful with that, because the
Mhm.
unintended recipients of that may complain. But I don't know. I'm afraid if I played classical music at our office buildings, they would just camp out even more and really enjoy it, right? Because it is relaxing to me. I play classical in the mornings particularly, and I play, speaking of focus, I play classical Baroque music, and that really helps you. It's that Mozart effect. So most commonly I listen to Mozart and Bach, and it really does help me focus, and that's something with the brain. There is a reaction in the brain when you're listening to that type of music. So thanks for bringing that up. But I think I would play some like death metal or something instead.
Or Celine Dion. Play Celine Dion full blast.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Horrific
that might do
power
it.
screeching.
That would make me want to leave, Brad. I would have to leave then at that point. All right. Well, thank you guys. Have a great day and a great week.
Thank you, everyone.
Mike, looking forward to next week, you guys.
Yep.